Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. A very warm good morning to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. It is time once again to begin analyzing the day's Hindu newspaper in a live session, just like it happens every single day at 10 a.m. We will be trying to discuss the most important news stories from the Hindu newspaper, both from the prelims and from the mains examination point of view. Before we go in and discuss what are the topics that we have chosen, as you know, till the 12th of June, we have this running promotion for all of you. All that you have to do to avail this is click on the link given on the pinned comment section of the chat. Now, these are the topics that we have taken up for all of you. First, we'll be discussing about the need for having a technology treaty, the need for having a treaty where all the member nations around the world agree about how to protect data localization, etc. The author in this article makes a point that with the evolution of technology, there cannot be different laws in different countries. The entire world is now connected, physical barriers are now down, and we need to have international treaties. The second thing we'll be discussing is India's energy transition through the states. The theme of this article is India's aim to go ahead and give a boost to renewable energy will only be successful if individual states are contributing to that. We'll be discussing what is the status of individual states in India, which state produces the largest amount of renewable energy, which state has more potential, etc. Then third, why is there trouble in Kosovo again? So Kosovo is a country close to Serbia. Serbia and Kosovo have an ongoing issue for a long time. The crux of the matter is Kosovo used to be a part of Serbia. A few years back, Kosovo had declared its independence from Serbia, that we are a separate country altogether. Since then, there have been clashes between the two sides, Serbia and Kosovo. All these are from the mains examination point of view. Then from the prelims exam point of view, we'll be discussing first about India trying to have the final version of a submarine deal with Germany. What that is, why are we focusing on the submarines now? Second, we'll be discussing how the government of India has said that 508 districts in the country are free of manual scavenging. Now, you might say that yes, this is very good. 508 districts are free of manual scavenging, but on the other hand, this is not that good. The reason being that for many years, the government has claimed that all the districts in India are free of manual scavenging. So now, how is it that not all of them are free? Out of all the districts in India, only 66% are free of manual scavenging. So this raises a question mark on the government. Then we'll be discussing about what exactly are the sanctions that Iran may face, because Iran has unveiled a new hypersonic missile. Then in the end, we'll be discussing about a news in sports, because again, sports has become slightly relevant. As you know, today will be the beginning of the World Test Championship in England, where India and Australia will be playing each other. So just a few details about how the World Test Championship works. What is it that you need to know about this? This is all we will be discussing in today's article. Let's begin. The first one that we have for you here is about what problems does technology pose to the entire world. Now, I'm sure all of you know this. With improving technology around the entire world, the challenges that the nations are facing are also becoming better and better. For example, just a few decades back, there was not really a problem of cyber crimes. There was not really a problem of hacking into different systems. Now, with the evolution of bigger technology, with the evolution of things such as the cryptocurrency, hacking techniques have become so much more sophisticated that it becomes extremely difficult for the individuals and for the different nations to now keep a track of it. That means with improving technology, we also need to improve the laws. We also need to make sure that our regulations are on track to ensure that these threats from emerging technologies are captured. All of you would have seen in the past few years how many cyber attacks have happened. We have discussed some of these earlier. I'll just repeat once again. Remember, just a few months back, there was a cyber attack on AIMS, the database of AIMS, which had all these important data, the health-related data of a lot of individuals, that got compromised. Then we also had a situation where during the COVID-19 pandemic, the entire city of Mumbai got blacked out. At that point of time, we thought it's a failure in the grid system, the electric grid system. Later on, it was found out that it was a Chinese hacking attempt, they were able to cut down the electricity supply of entire city of Mumbai. We see what is happening outside India as well. You see what is happening in the US, where big companies are now facing these kind of threats. So the problem of cyber threats, problems with these emerging technologies is very, very real right now. It is so much real, or it is so important right now, that many countries, including China for example, have made hackers a part of their army. Chinese army has a specific unit that will try to hack into systems of their different countries which are adversaries. So this is a big problem that we are facing. As per the author is making a point that now the concept of a nation state doesn't exist. Now what exactly do you mean by a nation state? Nation state means an area that has a proper geographical boundaries. Nation state would be an area which has proper geographical boundaries, the one that you see on the map. The problem, however, is that if you actually see, now the problem is not just within the country. Most of the hacking attempts that are being made, most of these attempts made to harm our infrastructure, these are being made from outside India and not within the country. So though our laws apply to within the country, the problem is many of these attacks are happening to our country from places which are very, very, very far away. Someone sitting thousands of kilometers away from India might be trying to hack into an Indian government system. While the Indian laws only apply to within India, how do you plan to capture, or how do you plan to control those people who are outside India? This is where the problem starts. So as per the author, the only solution is if the entire world comes together, have international conventions, under which no matter where the hacker or the criminal is located, the criminal should be dealt with the same kind of a law. This is a need of the hour, because as the new technologies emerge, the challenge will keep on becoming bigger and more difficult. It will only be solved if all the countries around the world come together and have this kind of a law. Now the problem here is, why would many countries have to or want to have this kind of a law? I just gave you an example of what China did. Rather than thinking of emerging technologies as a threat, China is using it as a weapon. Chinese hackers have been behind multiple hacking attempts on India. They have even been behind multiple hacking attempts on the US, other Western countries as well. This means that not all the countries around the world are on the same page when it comes to tackling all these kind of technologies. This is where we have to ensure that at least those private organizations that are working in this field are working independently. The author says, if you look at the technology sector in the world, just a handful of the companies own the entire sector. For example, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. These five together, if you look at their valuation, this is $4.1 trillion. $4.1 trillion is the valuation of these five companies only. Means their combined valuation is more than India's GDP. It is more than German GDP as well. How do these companies become so powerful? How is it that these companies are able to make sure that whatever they want, they can do in nations around the world? Doesn't matter what kind of fines are imposed on them, they do whatever they want because they have become so powerful. The reason why they have become powerful is also because they have control over data. There would not be, and I'm very sure of all the people who are watching this right now, there would not be anyone of you or anyone that you know who is not using any of these five products. Do you know anyone in your generation who is not using any of these five products? There will always be someone using at least one of these five products. In fact, you are looking at me right now on YouTube. YouTube is owned by whom? YouTube is owned by Google only. So the reason that you and me are actually connected and the reason why you are watching me right now is on a platform that is owned by Google. So if you actually see around the entire world, you will not really find any person in your generation that would not be connected to any of these five. You would be using at least one of these. I'm not saying you are using all of these. I'm saying you should be using at least one of these. You would be using Google, if not Gmail, then Google search, if not YouTube, then something else. You would be using Facebook, Amazon to search. You would be using a Windows laptop, then you're using Microsoft products. All these have so much data. When you make an account on them, when you search something on them, that means you are giving them your data. That means at the end of the day, you are actually giving a lot of information to these. This is where another problem starts. That is a problem called data localization. Now, what do you mean by data localization? How is it connected to this? The idea of data localization is very simple. The idea is that you want your country's data, the data of your citizens, should be stored within the country. For example, the government of India would want that all the data Indian citizens have given to Facebook, Apple, Google, Microsoft, etc. should be stored within India and should not go outside India. But that is not happening right now. Most of these big companies have their data servers where they store all that data outside India. So India's data, Indian citizens' data is now stored outside India. What is the problem with that? The problem is, since this data is outside India, how will our laws apply to it? If the Indian government wants to force these companies to share some data, these companies will not share data. Why? Because the servers are placed outside India. So data localization has to be forced upon. India has been trying to talk a lot about data localization, preservation of data, but we have not had a lot of support from other countries. India right now, as leader of the G20, can play a major role in the upcoming G20 summit, where we can talk a lot more about the need to regulate data, the need to have data localization. The problem, however, is not all the nations around the world prefer data localization. Why? Let's try and understand this. Many developed nations around the world are those nations which are capitalist. They want to give encouragement to those companies. Like the American government would want to give encouragement to Apple, Facebook, Google, etc. So they support these companies. These companies want to set up data centers in those areas where it is the cheapest for them, where they don't have to worry about the government. That is why they choose very few nations where they can actually set up their data centers. India wants data localization. Why? So that we can protect personal data of our citizens. There is also economic aspect. Right now, the most valuable thing in the world is data. The most valuable thing in the world is data. I'll give you a very simple example. Okay, let's try and understand this. Let's assume that there is a company that has just made a new bike. Listen to this very carefully. Let's assume there's a new company that has just made a new motorbike. Okay, so they want to advertise, they want to go to those people who are interested in bikes. But how would that company know who is interested in bikes, who is not interested in bikes? So what will they do? They will go to Facebook. They will ask Facebook, give me a list of those people who put up photos of motorbikes, who like videos of motorbikes, who are those people who keep on commenting about motorbikes, so that we can target them only, so that it will save our cost. Similarly, for example, they will go to Google. The bike company will ask Google, give me a list of those who always search on YouTube about motorbike videos, new motorbike reviews, etc. Or give me a data of those people who have searched, Google searched in the past few months about a new motorbike, so that we can actually target those people. This is how your data is important. This is how Facebook, Google, etc. make money. The problem here is that this data that is being used, that is being sold by Facebook, Facebook charges money in exchange of that data, Google charges money in exchange of that data. The point here is that your data is being used for someone else. This is why you keep on getting those calls, you keep on getting those emails, etc. Do you want to buy this, or do you want to buy that, etc. This happens because the government of India can't control the usage of this data, since the data is stored outside India. Doesn't matter what kind of laws the government of India makes, since the data is stored outside India, Indian laws will not really apply there. This is where the problem actually starts. Now, the example that I gave you about motorbike, etc. is fine. It would not impact the entire nation. But the problem is, if you look in other countries, elections have been influenced by these companies. The American election was influenced by this company called Cambridge Analytica that got a lot of data from Facebook about how people like certain videos, how to like certain photos, and they gave it to the political parties. So the political parties knew how to target the voters, how not to target the voters. So this data doesn't just have an economic implication, it also has a political implication that we saw in case of the US as well. As I said, because the data is stored outside the country, there will not be any certainty of enforcing the laws. The law enforcement issues will still remain, and India's security can also be harmed. Because again, when the data is stored outside, you don't have any control over it, you do not know how will it be used, and this becomes a big problem. That is why India wants data localization. Now, I'll tell you something very interesting. Many people have forgotten about this, so let me remind you. The G20 summit that is being held in India, earlier it was held in Indonesia. Before that, the G20 summit of 2019 was held in Japan. Now, in Japan G20 summit of 2019, the G20 nations wanted to introduce a resolution which was called the Free Flow of Data Resolution. It was called the Osaka Summit. Most of the G20 countries agreed to it, that data should flow freely across the entire world. India was one of the few countries that said, no, we do not support this. India in 2019 also rejected this idea of free flow of data because we have always wanted data localization. The fight that India right now has is a big fight because most of the countries, as you can see with the G20 resolution, do not really have very strong laws about data localization. They want free flow of data, which India does not want. Now, globally, if you look at countries around the world, many of them have made laws about data localization. One is China. China has very, very strict about their data localization. They do not allow their data to be used anywhere outside. In fact, that is why most of the big tech companies that you use, Google, Facebook, etc., Twitter, they are not allowed in China. China has their own versions of these companies because China doesn't want their data to be shared outside. China is very happy stealing the data from the entire world. They're very happy doing that, but they don't want their data to go outside. So China also has made very, very strict laws, and they have not allowed many of these companies to even operate in China. They have their own Chinese version of all these companies. EU also, if you remember a few weeks back we did discuss, EU has their own law called the General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR. It's a pretty strict law that the EU has made about no misuse of data. US also has different laws of different sectors. In health sector about the health data, finance sector, etc. India is also now at the cusp of making these very strict laws, but the problem with India is, since most of the data is stored outside the India doesn't have a lot of control over how the data will be used. This was our first news for the day. Before I go ahead to the second one, let me quickly take up if there are a few comments. Ashu is saying, can we say that divergent national interests, unequal access of technology, and lack of consensus poses several hurdles towards this? Yes, lack of consensus is a big problem. Lack of consensus among the nations have not been agreed to this. With the lack of consensus, the reason for lack of consensus is divergent national interests only. So yes, this is a big hurdle. Adarsh is saying, does GDPR support data localization? Adarsh, so they have categorized data into different categories. Some of the essential data they want to be stored within their continent. Then Jigar is saying certain sections were there of data localization in data protection bill. Very few, but still most of our data is being stored outside. Data protection bill was mostly about wherever data is stored, it should not be misused. Gaurav is saying how China is growing so fast in terms of technology, what steps will be taken by India to grow fastly? See Gaurav, for most of the sectors, when you say how is a country growing so fast, at the end of the day, the answer is only one, that is money. The more you invest in a sector, the better you will grow, as simple as that. Obviously, the growth that China has seen in the past few decades, India has not seen that. So obviously, China has much more money than India. So there is not even a comparison of how China is doing so fast in technology and India is not. If India is also given the same amount of money, maybe we'll also grow at the same pace, but we don't have that much money because of their manufacturing, because of how much or how big a factory they are to the entire world. They have huge foreign exchange reserves. If you compare India and the Chinese GDP would be close to 5 to 6 times that of India. So obviously that is a big reason why they are growing fast. They have more money, as simple as that. Okay, I'll take one or two more. Sudhakar is saying UN is devoid of making universal law on data protection or cybercrime. Sudhakar, see, UN doesn't make any laws. No law made by the UN is binding. UN can only introduce resolutions. It depends on nation whether they want to accept it or not. Simple. Shivani, China doesn't have many of these apps. They don't allow Google, Facebook, Twitter, etc. They have their own local versions of it. Yes, Suparno, EU means the European Union. Okay, I'll take one last question. Prahlad is saying why India has its own YouTube. Prahlad, maybe you can make your own YouTube. No one is stopping you. Let's go ahead, we'll cheer for you. You can make your own YouTube. We'll have the classes on your YouTube. Maybe that will be the beginning of India's YouTube. But till then, whatever we have, we'll have to make do with that. Okay, let's go ahead then. The second article that we want to discuss here is India's energy transition through its states. Now, what exactly is this idea? The idea is simple. The Indian government in the past few years has made a lot of commitments about moving to cleaner energy. We have been trying to move towards solar, wind, nuclear, so on and so forth. But the problem here is, as per the article, if you look at the states around the entire country, most of the states are lagging behind their target. So what the government had done was, Government of India had given individual target to different states. How much electricity should you produce through solar, wind, etc. Now you all know solar, wind have been topics that have been discussed quite a lot in the past few years. The cost for producing solar energy specifically has come down drastically. But even today, only a few states in India have a potential of solar and wind energy. Most of the states are lagging behind. And that is why India's global pledge of 50% non-fossil fuel electricity by 2030 or net zero by 2070, this is where this pledge is not going on track. See, the problem is very simple. You cannot have a situation where the states are not doing well and India is doing well. It is just not possible. India at the end of the day is made up with states. So if the states are not doing well, if they are not on target, at the end of the day, you will not have the country on target. So if a country has to be on target, the individual states also have to meet their target. And this is something that is not happening. There are only a few states in India that are doing well. For example, if you look at Gujarat, Karnataka and Rajasthan, these are the three states that have done pretty well. They have gone above their individual targets given. But most of the other nations, most of the other states, are not on target that has been given to them by the central government of how much electricity should they generate from non-fossil fuels. Now, as I said, with the states not being able to achieve their target, it is not possible for the entire country to achieve their target. What does the Indian government have to do here? Number one, obviously it's a matter of investing more in those states which are lagging behind. The problem with renewable energy is solar, wind, it depends a lot on the climate. You can't really force solar energy to be produced in a place where there is no sun. You can't really force wind energy to be used at a place where no wind is flowing. So at the end of the day, you have to make a lot more investment into research and help those states. Doesn't matter which party is ruling over that state, doesn't matter which party is in power or opposition. This is where you have to show an example of cooperative federalism. This is a proper example of where cooperative federalism is required. As we had discussed, cooperative federalism means where the center and the states cooperate with each other, where different states cooperate with each other to ensure that at the end of the day, the national target is met. The funding from the central government should go to the states irrespective of whichever party is in power, irrespective of whichever party is more popular in that particular state. This is where we have to actually look into. Now, I am very sure on your screen you might not be able to see these numbers very clearly. Listen to this carefully. This is a screenshot I have taken from the Government of India's website. Don't worry if you can't see the numbers properly. Once you download the PPT, and you can download the PPT from the description box. Once you download the PPT, you will see this table very clearly. What this table shows is different state-wise numbers, that is in terms of renewable energy generation. So don't worry if you cannot see the exact numbers, absolutely fine. You can download the PPT, see them there. If you can see it right now, excellent. Maybe you don't need the glasses that I do. But yes, if you can see the glasses, if you can see the numbers, great. If you can't see the numbers, don't worry, download the PPT and you will be able to see this. Anyways, what I want to stress is, just listen to this very carefully. What I want to stress is, look at wind power. Let me change the pen color. Look at a few interesting factors. Look at wind power. In terms of wind power, the states which are actually doing very well are Gujarat here, if you can see. Then we have Tamil Nadu again doing very well. After that we have Karnataka doing fine. Then we have Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. Apart from that, we also have Andhra Pradesh. What I would suggest from this part is, from this table, and this is an authentic data, I've taken it from the government source only. What I would suggest for you is, download the PPT and make a list of top 4 states in these categories. Let's say make a list of top 4 states in wind energy, top 4 states in solar, top more states in biomass, top 4 states in rooftop solar, etc. Try and get that data with you, try and remember that. That will be extremely important for both the prelims and for the mains examination point of view, okay? Again, if you can't see the numbers right now, don't really worry about that. You can just download the PPT from the description. You can then see that. You can zoom in right now, whatever you want, but try and have this data ready with you. That will be helpful. Now, I also wanted to give you the present status of where we stand as a country in our aim to further renewable power generation. Now this data is till Feb 2023. Again, this is from a government source, so you can check it authenticity, there's no problem with that. By Feb of 2023, India had a combined renewable energy generation of about 178.79 gigawatts. Over here, I would want you to remember this in increasing or decreasing order. That is important. The biggest source of renewable energy in India is solar. That is number 1. Then second is large hydropower. That is second. Third that we have is wind. Fourth that we have is biomass. And fifth is small hydro. Sixth is waste to energy. Try and remember this in increasing or decreasing order in any way that you can. This is also important. Even if you don't remember the exact figures, don't worry about that. Just remember the pattern, increasing or decreasing order, that would be fine. You don't have to remember the exact number. That will not really be asked, but the pattern can be asked, increasing or decreasing order. As long as you know that, you are good to go. Green hydrogen, the government is expecting green hydrogen will also become a part of this very soon, but it has not become so far. We have a target to produce 5 million tons of green hydrogen by 2030. Now we'll have to see if you are preparing till 2030, which I hope you are not. Then we'll see what is the status of green hydrogen by 2030. But right now, green hydrogen is still a work in progress. We'll have to see whether green hydrogen actually comes into this list and it actually is able to make a lot of difference or not. This was our second article for the day. Okay. Ashu is saying it would be correct to say energy demand supply gap, lack of awareness, inadequate supply, regulatory framework are challenges in India's energy transition. I'll tell you the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge in energy transition, not just India, but with most of the countries, is a lack of storage. Solar is a primary example. India has a lot of potential of generating solar energy. We are also the founder of the International Solar Alliance. the entire problem of solar, and the entire world is facing this, is a lack of storage option. Where do you store the solar energy that you generated in the morning so that you can use it in the night time? There are not enough batteries. The batteries are not really that affordable that you can store all the solar power. Once the storage solution is found, then solar and other energies that we have can be a big solution. But until that is found, it becomes a big problem. Solar is good because it has reduced, or the cost of producing solar energy has reduced drastically in the past few years. We just need to find the storage solution. Lack of incentive, lack of funding, etc. remains a big problem. When you transition to any new energy, it will always be costly. Green hydrogen, for example, right now is very costly. But the government is expecting, as the green hydrogen volume increases, as you produce more green hydrogen, it will become much cheaper. As the time passes, the energies, all of these become much more affordable. But for now, you have to focus on a lot of cost. Sabha is saying, can we store energy in generators? No, Sabha, energy is not stored in generators. Energy is stored in batteries. And to save all this kind of energy, you need humongous batteries. The problem again is, how do you make batteries? See, I'll tell you the entire circle. Let's try and understand this, okay? Now, today we are producing a lot of solar. We want batteries to store this solar. Now, you want a lot of batteries for this. How do you make the batteries? If for making batteries, you are again harming the environment only to make all those batteries, then what was the point of making solar anyway? Are you understanding it? If you make solar energy and then you want to store it in the batteries, but to make those batteries in itself, you use all the bad and the all this waste energy, all the energy that is actually harming the environment, then what is the point of using the solar in the first instance? That is a big problem. And this problem exists, and the same problem exists with the EVs also, the electric vehicles that we are talking about. Electric vehicles, yes, they are able to control emissions, but to make electric vehicles, if you are using steel that is made by harming the environment, if you are using battery electric vehicle that is used by harming the environment, then what is the use of making those EVs? The problem is, you can't just pick one component and say that this is environment friendly. In the entire manufacturing chain, everything has to be environment friendly. Only then you can claim that yes, it is environment friendly. Are you understanding it? Because you can't just say, no, solar is environment friendly, everything else that I'm making is not environment friendly. But because that is not how it works. You have to make the entire cycle environmental friendly. That is what the problem is. Okay, I'll take one last question, then we'll move ahead. Ashu saying every shifting process requires sufficient fund. Yes, that is the entire debate. Developing countries want the developed countries to fund us because they were responsible for climate change and they are not doing that. As simple as that. Okay, let's go ahead. The third article that we have, the third problem or that the world is facing right now as per the newspaper is the problem between Kosovo and Serbia. Now please understand this. If there is an issue somewhere in the world between two countries and India is not one of them, please listen to this very carefully. If there's an issue between two countries and India is not one of them, and India is not even a neighboring country, then usually you should not expect a question from that conflict by the UPSC. The only kind of question you can expect from such conflicts where India is not involved, India is not even a neighbor, the only kind of question that you can expect is number one, map-based questions. Number two, places in news. Some cities, etc. that remain in the news, maybe that will be asked. That they will ask, they will give you a name of a region or a city and they'll ask you where is the city located. Or they might show you or tell you, ask you the map based questions on neighboring, etc. But in most cases, you should not expect that an internal or a conflict between the two countries where India is not involved, India is not even a neighboring country, that will not really be asked by UPSC because it doesn't concern us. So please remember that part. So what we are going to do here is, we will be discussing a bit of detail about Kosovo, Serbia, not too much in detail, so that you have an idea what is happening. But again, you don't have to go very deep into it, because again, only map-based questions, places-based questions will be asked. It does not really have any specific influence over India in any way whatsoever. Too far away from India. None of these countries have any significant trade, etc. with India. None of these countries have significant Indian diaspora also. That is why it is not really that relevant. So let's see what is happening. The issue here is, as I said earlier in the beginning, Kosovo used to be a part of Serbia. I'll first show you the map so it becomes easier for you. Let's look at this map. So this is Serbia, this is Kosovo. Kosovo used to be a part of Serbia, used to be a province of Serbia. In 2008, Kosovo declared that we are independent. Why? Kosovo said that our history is very different. We are not Serbians in ethnicity. Kosovo said that we are more related to Albania. As per Kosovo, they said we are more related to Albania in our ethnicity, and we do not really want to have any connection with Serbia. So they were a part of the Serbian country, but they moved out in 2008. Serbia obviously did not like it. Serbia said that no, we will not allow this. How can a part of our country be removed? Since then, there have been problems between the two sides. Since then, Serbia and Kosovo have an issue. Now, the problem here is, Serbia is friends with Russia. So Serbia gets the support of Russia. On the other hand, since Serbia is friends with Russia, so Kosovo will be held by whom? Kosovo will be held by NATO. Remember, none of these two countries are a part of NATO. Neither Serbia nor Kosovo is a part of NATO. They are not a part of NATO. Just remember, Serbia has a historical connection with Russia, so they are pretty close to Russia. Kosovo, on the other hand, is usually supported by NATO. Now, one more part of the story. Kosovo is not recognized as an official country by many countries around the world even today. Kosovo is not a part of UN also. Why? Kosovo could not become a UN member. The reason being that to become a UN member, you need all 5 permanent members of Security Council to say yes. Russia has never said yes. Russia always vetoes it. Russia doesn't allow Kosovo even to become a member of the UN. So Kosovo doesn't have recognition of the UN, doesn't have recognition of many countries. They are recognized by Western countries mostly, but not by all of them. Now let's come back. Why is it in the news once again? Because again the clashes have started between the two sides, Kosovo and Serbia. NATO has sent its peacekeeping forces in Kosovo. There are some negotiations going on. Germany, France are trying to negotiate between the two sides. Serbia and Kosovo are trying to meet and trying to ensure that there is some kind of a negotiation that comes in. Now, as I said, the problem starts with 2008, where Kosovo, that was a province of Serbia, declared that we are an independent country. Serbia, in exchange, went to the International Court of Justice. They went to International Court of Justice saying that this is illegal. But International Court of Justice actually took side of Kosovo. International Court of Justice said that no, whatever Kosovo did is not wrong. They have the right to do that. They have the right of self-determination. They can actually be an independent country. Since then, obviously the ICJ judgments are not binding. Many times you will see the ICJ judgments have not been accepted by even the most powerful nations around the world. Nations such as China, Russia, US, many times have just neglected the ICJ judgments, and this is one other instance of that, where Serbia says that we will not accept this. Now, all these are a part of a region called the Balkans region. This is what the Balkans region is. All these are a part of Balkans. If you see here, this is Serbia, this is Kosovo. Kosovo's capital is Pristina. This is a region which used to be a part of Serbia earlier. Now, since 2008, as I said, multiple clashes have started between the two sides. Now, the problem here is, in Kosovo also, there is a very mixed kind of a population. For example, in Kosovo also, the part that is very close to Serbia, it has some Serbian origin people. Again, let me show you the map. If you look at this map, this part, which is close to Serbia over here, This has Serbian origin people who are much closer to Serbia as compared to Kosovo. They are the ones who are fighting against their own Kosovo government that we want to be a part of Serbia. These people who are living in Kosovo but are Serbian origin, they have refused to pay any taxes. They don't pay taxes to either Kosovo or Serbia. They are the ones who are saying that we want to become a part of Serbia. We cannot remain in this state. As I said, China, Russia mainly, because of its closeness, because of its proximity to Serbia, has always supported Serbia, and that is why Kosovo has not even been allowed to become a part of UN so far. In the past, there have been some attempts at settlement. For example, in 2013, there was something called the Brussels Agreement that was brokered by the EU between the two sides. The agreement was, let's have a joint administration of a common area. The common area that is in Kosovo, where there is Serbian minority, that area should be jointly administered by the two sides, but that agreement also was not implemented properly. And that is why this area still remains in contention. Kosovo-Serbia rivalry has still not been solved. Now, why is this in the news right now? Recently, what happened was, in Kosovo, there were mayor elections in different municipalities. These elections were boycotted by the Serbian origin people. Serbian origin people did not turn up. Because Serbian origin people did not turn up, the person who won the mayor election was a non-Serbian, was of Albania origin. This is what started all the problems. Again, if this is Kosovo, this is a part where there are a lot of Serbians. They said we will not take part in the elections. So only the Albanians came out to vote, and that is why the mayor who won the election was actually an Albanian origin person. This is what has led to all these problems. Serbian origin people in Kosovo say that we won't have an Albanian mayor, and this is why the problem has started. This is again an infographic that shows you a lot of details about different types of areas that are under the news. As I said in the beginning, you don't have to go deeper into the details of the clashes between the two sides where India is not even related. Rather than that, focus on the map, focus on the places in news. That will be good enough for you, and you should be covered. This was our third article from the mains examination point of view. Lokesh is saying these topics are not present in my Hindu paper. No. Lokesh, I don't know. I see the e-version, the e-paper of Hindu. It was present in e-paper of Hindu. I'll suggest you something. If there is a topic that you see is not present in a Hindu newspaper, just search for this topic on Google and write the Hindu. So you will get the website link of the Hindu newspaper where this article will be covered. So it depends whichever way you want to have. Ram is saying, does Kosovo, Serbia have economic relation with India? Not very much, very slight. Kosovo almost nils, Serbia just a bit. Akansha, yes, you should remember the surrounding nations of these two. This is what can be asked in the prelims examinations. Then I have a question. Jigar is saying all the escalations highlight just one issue, UN is failure, we need reforms. The small answer is yes, we need reforms in the UN. But again, the problem is reforms in the UN will only happen if the P5 nations want it. And they are the part of the problem. So since they don't want to change, nothing will change. Then Ashu is saying, can we relate Kosovo situation like Taiwan? No. Taiwan-China situation is very different. Taiwan-China situation is a very different kind of a history of how people of China, the Nationalist Party of China, they were forced out of China, they went to Taiwan. Very different, not comparable to what is happening in Kosovo, Serbia. Okay, let's go ahead then. Now, from the prelims examination point of view, we have a few topics. The first one is India and Germany. India and Germany are on the advanced stages of talks to sign a submarine deal. Now, Germany and India have been progressing. or have been trying to progress on the talks to procure 6 advanced conventional submarines that Indian Navy needs from Germany. This is a part of the Indian government's long-going P75I project. P75I or P75 India project is a project under which the government of India is trying to make indigenous submarines or India self-dependent on submarines. Germany and South Korea were the two countries that submitted the bid when India announced this to the world that we want to buy some submarines. We have most probably finalized Germany, and we will be buying 6 submarines from Germany worth 45,000 crores. This will come down to about over $5 billion. Now, this is something that has been in the news for a long time. As you can see, in Feb itself, there was a news that Germany is trying to pursue this deal. Submarines and fighter aircrafts, please remember this. Submarines, fighter aircrafts, and aircraft carriers. These are 3 of the most expensive defense equipment that anyone can buy. Submarines, very costly. Fighter aircrafts, very costly. And then the aircraft carriers, extremely costly. Indian government has been trying to make indigenous submarines for a long time. We have a project called Project 75 India. That is also Project 75I, that talks about construction of 6 modern conventional submarines with contemporary equipment. Under this, we are now taking help of Germany. Under this program, we also want to give a boost to design and construction capabilities of submarines within the country and make sure that we become self-sufficient in this aspect as well. Now, I don't know how many of you have read this in the news. There is one other very interesting news. It's not in today's Hindu newspaper, so I have not covered it here. But there's also one news that was in the news the past few days. India and US are on advanced stage talks where India will now be manufacturing one of the most advanced fighter aircraft engines in India. I don't know how many of you have read this news or not. There are talks going on. The fighter aircraft engine that US produces, India is in talks to now produce that in India. The deal is in talks. It may be finalized. So there are a lot of these developments that are going on. In all of these, the government of India has been trying to have as much transfer of technology as possible. Transfer of technology means we don't just want to keep buying from a foreign country. We want to learn how to make it and then at the end of the day, make it for our own. So we are trying to make India, or through HAL, make India a hub of this engine manufacturing, because see, in terms of fighter jets, the biggest or the most difficult part to make in a fighter jet is their engines. Once the engine is done, everything else comes later on. Everything else can work out very easily. Once you actually master the engine technology, half of the job is done anyway. This is why India has been focusing a lot with US as well to have this deal. It may be finalized when the Prime Minister of India goes to US in a couple of weeks. That may be the final version of the deal, but it is still going on. Now, India has made a 30-year submarine plan. It was after the Kargil war. The idea was to have 24 submarines that are indigenously built by 2030. Right now, India has about 16 conventional submarines. Out of these, not all of these are operational. Because India has such a large coastline, the longer the coastline that a country has, more are the submarines that you require. India knows that submarines are important for our coastline preservation, for our coastline defense, and that is why we are focusing on this. The next article that we have, again from Prelims point of view, is the Government of India, through a report by the Ministry of Social Justice, has said that 508 districts in India are free of manual scavenging. Now, total districts in India, 766. Government is saying 508 are free of manual scavenging. Now, there are two ways to look at this. One way, you can be happy about it. Oh, so many districts are free of manual scavenging. On the other hand, the problem is Government of India for many years has been claiming that all the cities in India are free of manual scavenging. So when you are claiming all the cities are free of manual scavenging, how is it that now only 66% of the cities are free of manual scavenging? Were you lying earlier or were you lying right now? What is manual scavenging? I hope all of you should know. Manual scavenging is a practice under which people with their bare hands clean human waste. They clean the waste in the gutters, the sewage with their bare hands without any use of machines. That is called manual scavenging. Manual scavenging is a technique that has been banned in India by multiple laws and Supreme Court judgments. Even then, manual scavenging is a technique or is a practice that still is seen around the entire country, especially in the rural areas where you have toilets without any water supply. You have toilets where people use the toilets. There is no water supply, so you have people who will manually clean all that waste. This is the problem of manual scavenging. Because the government of India had been claiming manual scavenging has been removed or has been prohibited in the country, it comes as a surprise how is manual scavenging still allowed in many parts. There is a government scheme running for that. Many of you would know this. This is called the Namaste scheme. The Namaste scheme talks about 100% mechanization of the sewer work in the entire country. But again, the problem is in 2023-24, no allocation was made for the rehabilitation scheme. Rehabilitation scheme means those who are working as manual scavengers, how do you give them some other job? How do you now make sure that they are not indulging in manual scavenging, but do they have some other job to do or not? This Namaste scheme stands for National Action for Mechanized Sanitation Ecosystem. It is a scheme under which the government of India is trying to make all these cleaning activities mechanized rather than manual. It is also about the safety of the sanitation workers. Budget of 360 crores was given for 4 years for this entire scheme. The scheme also talks about giving alternative livelihood opportunities, enhancing their skills, etc., so that they don't have to work in the field of manual scavenging and they can do something else. But as we can see here, this has not really been a success and manual scavenging still continues. Manual scavenging is banned in India under multiple laws. There is a 2013 Act that says that manual scavengers and their Rehabilitation Act has banned all these practices. It is not just about cleaning the dry toilets, etc. It's also about cleaning sewers, septic tanks, and the railway tracks as well. The Supreme Court also in 2014 said prohibition of manual scavenging has to be the responsibility of the government. Anyone who dies because of indulging in manual scavenging should get money and compensation from the government of about 10 lakh rupees. Even then, manual scavenging still continues in large numbers. This was our next article. If you have any comments, let me know, and then we'll cover up the last 2 comments quickly. Ashu, you're writing a statement, so write full stop at the end. I'm not sure what the question mark is. You're writing a statement, fine. What is the question in that? If anyone is here from Patna, please let Mr. Raza know. He wants to know if someone is from Patna. Any other question? Then I have a, let me see. See, the problem of manual scavenging, there are a lot of issues that are related to it. Issues such as, for example, do you have other alternative livelihood opportunities for the person or not? Do you actually have people who have skills or who have enough skills to go ahead and take some other jobs? Do you have a society where people are forcing a people of a certain caste on you to do this kind of a work? All of this becomes a problem. Okay, let's go ahead then. Okay, one question from Vedic. Is there any relation with caste atrocities? Yes, there is a strong connection. And listen to this very carefully. Not all Dalits are manual scavengers, but by far all the manual scavengers are Dalits. So there is a strong caste connection between the two. In the rural areas, a lot of people who are Dalits are forced into this work even if they don't want to. So you can't ignore the rule or the role that the caste is playing in this, because you will not hardly see any manual scavenger. It is not actually a Dalit. So it is a part of caste atrocity, it's a part of caste discrimination as well, and that is why the government has to look at it in different angles. Okay, let's go ahead. Iran has unveiled a new hypersonic missile that can cover 1400 kilometers. The problem with Iran is you are never really sure what claims are they making are true or not, because they have not really given any proof. They have just announced on their television that we have a new hypersonic missile called the Fatah or the Conqueror in Farsi. They said that this is capable of traveling 15 times the speed of sound. Now, remember this, hypersonic missile technology is a technology where many countries are working on this for many years now. India also is working on hypersonic missile technology for many years. What is hypersonic? Hypersonic means anything that flies at a speed of 5 Mach or more. 5 Mach means 5 times the speed of sound or more. So if there is any flying object that can go over 5 times the speed of sound, it will come into the category of hypersonic. How are they important? Hypersonic missiles would be extremely difficult to intercept by these missile interceptors. So countries around the world, US, Russia, China, all of these are trying to work on the hypersonic missiles. India also is one of those. India is also a country that is working on our own hypersonic missiles. But so far as of today, no country in the world has mastered this technology. There are a few different types of missile tests that have been conducted. US has conducted some hypersonic missile test. India has also conducted a hypersonic missile test which has been successful. But no country in the world can claim that we are now the masters of hypersonic technology. It is a race between US, China and Russia mainly about which country comes first to master all this technology. India is also working on this, and so is Japan. But the countries that have invested the biggest budget are these three. They are the ones who are now trying to have hypersonic technology or master hypersonic technology as much as possible. As I said, US, China, Russia are at the very top. They are taking different routes to it. US wants it for non-nuclear warheads. China wants it, Russia wants it for other types of technologies. India also is working on this, but we have not made any specific claims that we will be working on the hypersonic technology. It's more of a closed door mission. US did a couple of successful tests. Japan has also done certain tests along with Russia. India has also done certain tests, but again, no country can claim to be the masters of this. A couple of news stories with respect to India. Just look here. Jan 2023, India did do a small test to develop Mach 6 missiles. Mach 6 means 6 times the speed of sound. So by definition, we are going in the hypersonic category. By definition, we are above 5 times the speed of sound. But when you want to go above 5 times the speed of sound, you want to achieve 10, 12 Mach. We did achieve Mach 6 at least. On the other hand, Russia and India have also recently decided that we will develop a hypersonic version of BrahMos together. Kumkum is saying North Korea's Hwansong, it is a hypersonic missile. See, North Korea has claimed it, but again the problem here is no one really believes what North Korea says. They don't give any proof, they don't show any data, they just announce that our supreme leader, with the blessings of our supreme leader, we have been able to develop a missile. So, not really sure about what North Korea says. Twisha, which quiz are you talking about? I'm not able to understand. Which quiz do you want to apply for? Not sure which quiz. I'm not sure which quiz are you talking about. Maybe some other quiz. Okay. The last news story that we have, a kind of a different news story from the field of sports, because again we have found certain relevance of sports in the past few years. So just a news story about sports. Those who follow cricket would already know today is the beginning of the World Test Championship. That is a test match being played at Oval in England between India and Australia. This is the second version of the World Test Championship. Now just remember a few facts about the World Test Championship. How does it work? What is the logic behind it? It started in 2019. The idea is that we already have a World Cup for 50 over, we already had a World Cup for 20 over, now we want to have a World Cup for the test match as well. The idea was first in 2017 to start this, but it was replaced later on. In 2019 it started. It's a 2-year cycle, so teams play matches for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, the two nations that have the highest percentage, remember not the highest points, the highest percentage of points. Let's say a team maximum could get 100 points. Out of 100, they got 70. On the other hand, if a team maximum could get 200, out of 200, they got 100 points. So the percentage would be 70%, 50%. Higher percentage will go ahead. So the two teams with the highest percentage will go ahead, they'll play the final. The first version was won by New Zealand, where India again played the final. India lost that. Now it is India versus Australia, and hopefully India will win this one. It's a 2-year cycle of the tournament. As I said, it is based on the points that you win, the percentage of points. All the teams will not play the same number of matches. That is why it's a percentage of point and not the exactly points. Each team played 6 World Test Championship Series, 3 at home and 3 away. Also, 12 points are given to win a test match, 4 are given to each team for a draw, 6 are given for a tie. No points are given for a loss. This is how the point version works, and at the end of the day, whatever percentage of points you gain, based on that, it will be decided whether you win or not. This was the first one. It again was held in England. The second final today again being held in England. The third final in 2025 will also be held in England only. That will be in Lords. These are some of the details that you need to know. And with this, we come to the end of today's session of the Hindu Newspaper Analysis. There are a couple of practice questions that are here right in front of you. Please do write an answer to these. Try and see if you can enhance your answer writing skills. Make sure you take the advantage of the student answer writing portal. Go to the description box. You will see a link to go to the student answer writing portal. Click there, submit your answers, give each other feedback so that you can learn with each other's help as well. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. with the next session of the Hindu Newspaper Analysis. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.